All right, we're up to template number 6 now, and in this video we're going to do some testing for our email template, and we're going to see where we need to make corrections. We're also going to take a deeper dive into what all this is up here at the top of our document. We'll make some additional code changes to it, and then we'll do a final test using email on ACID. All right, so I sent a test of this to myself and picked it up in the Mail app on Windows 10, which is based on Outlook, and this is the result. So it mostly looks okay, but there are a few problems with it. The text, it looks like it has the right font and right size in our body text, but the line height is too big. The text looks okay here on the heading, and the button over here, the text looks okay, but the line height has actually been doubled. So you'll recall that when I worked on this before, let's scoot down here, we have this conditional comment style block for Microsoft Outlook, and I added some things to it. Body table TD, I specified the font family, line height 150%, font size 16 pixels. So what seems to be happening here is Outlook is doubling up on the line height. So it's interpreting this 150% and then the other 150% here and here, and it's multiplying them, giving me more line height than I really want. So I have to find a way to fix that. So what I did was I simply ripped this out and ran another test. And that came out like this. So now the line height looks much better. The button looks good. Text size is too small, but the text size is correct on the heading and the button. The reason the text size looks good here is because these have inline styles written on them. If we take a quick look here, look at our HTML, we see that our H2 heading has the font family written directly on the H2 tag, and it also has a line height of 1 and a margin top of 1, margin bottom of 0.05 em. So I added some of these things earlier, but some things are added automatically for us right in Marketing Cloud. So here in the design settings, we set what the font was going to be and what the size was going to be here and what the line height was going to be here. So I added a few things to that, but Marketing Cloud automatically inlines some styles directly on the heading tags. Okay? So we don't need to add all of these things, obviously. And so I did a series of tests, which I'll show you here. In the top left, this is what it looks like when I removed all of the styles added to the conditional comment. And smaller size, line height is okay, but not the right size. If I add just the font size without the line height, then the font size is improved, but the line height is too tight. If I add font size and line height stated in percentages, that's when the problem happens, where I get the doubled up line heights. So another way to write the line heights is pixel sizes. So here I'm adding a font size 16 pixels, line height 24 pixels. So how did I arrive at 24? Well, 150% of 16 is 24. So in other words, 1.5 times 16 is 24. So another way to write this would be to use ems, in which case I would have font size 16, a line height 1.5 ems. And again, 1.5 times 16 is 24, so I'm going to use the pixel size for this template. And when I tested that, everything looked fine. The font size is correct, the font is correct, it's showing up as Verdana. Everything looks good at that point. So what I'm going to do is change the code that's in this template, like so. So instead of saying body table TD, I'm just going to say body. Font family Verdana with the important keyword. Font size 16, important. Line height 24 pixels, important. So that's the first change I'm going to make to the CSS up here. Okay. Let me scroll back up here. Let's make some additional changes now to this other code that's up here. We see that everything starts with a doc type. Now, traditionally, HTML emails didn't used to have a doc type, and so some older email systems don't support it. Fortunately, Marketing Cloud does support a doc type, and a doc type really helps with how your email messages get rendered across different email clients, especially in webmail. However, this is a very old doc type, 4.01 transitional. It's been around for a long, long time. It's a lot better these days to use a more modern doc type, such as the HTML5 doc type. So this can be easily changed. I'll simply put in the HTML5 doc type. And I don't know if you noticed it, but down here, there was a little change that happened here. Let me revert that. You see how the space underneath the photo that's on the right, it actually changes when I insert the HTML5 doc type. There it is. And there it is with the original doc type. So little spacing changes like this can happen depending on which doc type you use. One real reason to use the HTML5 doc type is when you're using an email client that's a webmail client. All webmail clients replace your original doc type with the HTML5 doc type. And if you didn't have a doc type to begin with, it inserts an HTML5 doc type anyway. So the HTML5 doc type is really the way to go going forward, and I recommend using it. Even if you don't change the HTML tag or any of this up here, I recommend changing at least the HTML5 doc type. Let me make another couple of line breaks here. This tag here is used by Marketing Cloud, so we need to keep that. The meta viewport tag is used in mobile clients such as your phones, tablets, and so on. And then the character set for our document needs to be set at UTF-8. So that's good. But I'm going to replace all of this with a more updated chunk of code, which I'll talk about next, which is this right here. So we have the HTML5 doc type. We have HTML language English, which is highly recommended for accessibility. And then we have this XML and S code here. And we have the tag that Marketing Cloud uses. We have head. And then we have this tag here set in Microsoft Outlook comments, conditional comments. So what this does right here is it helps to level the playing field between email clients for users who may have set the 120 DPI scaling feature in Windows. There is documentation about what happens when a user does that. Here's a page on email on ACID, coding for DPI scaling. You can read this. It mentions, how you change your DPI scaling in Windows, and it shows you some examples of what can happen with different email clients with your email message. And here's that chunk of code that we inserted, starting with the HTML tag and continuing on through with this conditional comment tag here. So I recommend using it. I haven't found it to cause any problems. So I'm going to drop all of this in right here. Next we have our first style block. And this style block was given to us by the starter template that we started with. Then we have another style block here. And this style block has two media queries. There is the 480 max width media query for phones. We've already made a minor change to this. Previously, we took out the content padding that's default in the Marketing Cloud starter template, and we replaced it with this new style, which works much better for us in this email template. So we're going to leave that the way it is. As I mentioned before, it's best to set any font style changes that you really need. You need to set those manually. Don't rely on using the design settings changes over here. These things are terrible. They'll discombobulate your code. I don't recommend this at all. Leave it alone. Don't use it. So over here, we set this previously. I'm going to leave it like that. It's working in this email. I've tested it. Leave it alone. It's fine. Over here is the next media query. And notice that it has a max width of 640 pixels. This is actually incorrect. What this media query is for larger sized phones and tablets such as the iPad and so on. And this max width should really be set the same as your page width. And you remember down here we set a page width of 600 pixels. We set that before when we first set up our template. This media query should have the same max width setting on it. So I'm going to change that now to 600. And then if the size of our page is reduced to 600 pixels, that's when this media query will kick in, and certain things will reflow for tablets and other clients that have really big screens. So this has been corrected. We corrected this. We need to make a few more corrections up here in the first style block. So everything that's in here comes by default with Marketing Cloud when you start off a template based on one of the starter templates. And these start with read message body and external class. These things are explained elsewhere on the web. You can look them up. They may not be needed at all now. They were at one time considered to be important, but I don't think they're really important right now. Since they don't seem to be causing any problems, I'm just going to leave them in for now, but you can read up on these things later. And if you decide that you don't need them, you can certainly remove those things. This style is very good to keep in for the body tag. This style sets a default margin space on the top and bottom of paragraph tags. We're not using paragraph tags here, but we will when we get into inlining styles. So I'm going to leave this in. So what are inline styles? Again, right now we have styles written inline onto our H2 tag here for welcome. So these are inline styles here. When we get down here to our body font, there's no paragraph tag around our body font, and we're using 2 BR tags to create a line space between these chunks of text. So this isn't optimal. It's the default way that they do things in Marketing Cloud. We're going to leave it like that for now for this template, but just understand that doing it this way, this text is really just flapping in the breeze. So the only thing determining what font this picks up is the font styles that are set on this table down here and on the body up here. That's what's determining the font styles that is here in this content block. We're reinforcing that and making them a little stronger by adding body, font family, Verdana, font size, and line height just for Outlook. But this is a very loose, kind of lazy way to set font styles for our body text. We're going to leave it like that for now. Let's go back up here. Here we have a table style which is needed, so we're going to leave that alone. We're going to leave these next 2 styles alone. These are good. While we're up here and thinking about setting margins on our paragraph tag, why not set margins on our heading tags as well? That would be a very good idea right now. So right after our paragraph tag, I'm going to add these 2 tags. I want to have, I'll always make sure I have a margin top of 1 em and a margin bottom of ½ an em on our heading tags. So the welcome message over here and these H3 headings over here, I want to make sure that they have these margin settings. When we get down to here, at MS Viewport, this was used, actually I think it was originally used by Bootstrap a long time ago, and it was intended for older versions of Internet Explorer. It doesn't do anything for email messages, and it actually hurts Gmail because Gmail reads this as a nonsensical CSS style. And when Gmail finds a nonsensical style, it not only knocks out that style rule, but it actually knocks out everything that's in the style block that rule is in. So I'm going to remove it completely. Leaving it in, Gmail will disregard everything that's in here. Okay, so I'm going to remove that, but one thing I'm going to add for Gmail is this. Right up here we have this body style. I'm going to add another body style just for Gmail. Body, TD, input, text area, select, font family, Verdana. One of the nice little things that Gmail likes to do is it writes its own CSS at the top of your web page that's displaying your email, and then it rewrites all of your CSS. One of the things that it adds to the top is its own font styles, and it adds either Arial or Roboto. And I don't want to have Roboto show up here in my email message. I want to keep my email message showing Verdana. So for Gmail, I'm going to write this selector string the same way that Gmail writes it. Body, TD, input, text area, select, font family, Verdana, because I want to make sure that Gmail shows Verdana and not Roboto. Everything else here is okay. So I'm going to leave that alone. We're okay up here. We're okay here in our media queries. We fixed this one. We're okay there. We fixed our conditional comment. We're okay there. One last thing that I could add, it's not required, but I could add it, is you can add a title tag. And I'm going to add the title tag here. and it's simply going to say Department News, the same as my masthead graphic up here. Now, traditionally, you add your title tag up near the top, right? Like we might add it here right after this meta viewport tag. That would be the ideal place to put it if we were working on a web page. But this is Marketing Cloud. Marketing Cloud has a weird bug in it. If you put a title tag up here above the style blocks, above your CSS, then as you're working on a template, it will randomly completely knock out all of your styles. It just blows them away. You'll still see them here in the code view, but they'll disappear from view in your preview panel, and everything will go kaflooey. And the only way around that is to enter the title tag after all of the style blocks, and that is right here. Now, technically speaking, you can add the title tag anywhere in the head of the document, and this is still keeping above the closing head tag. So this is still legal to do, and this is the only place you can do it because of this weird little bug in Marketing Cloud. Now, do you need to use a title tag? Basically, no, but accessibility people will tell you that the title tag still gets read by screen readers, which is true. And if you are reading your email in a webmail client, then this title information gets shown in the tab that's up at the top that has your email message in it. So it's really a good idea to put in a title tag. The only thing is that here in Marketing Cloud, they don't give you a title tag to use anywhere. There's nothing here in the interface that lets you set a title tag for your document. There's nothing here in the template styles or anything else. So you have to put it in manually if you want to use it. So I've added that in, and we're all set to go. I'm going to click Save. Everything's set, ready. Let me exit this. I'm going to open my test email message. I set this up previously. I'm going to edit it. Marketing Cloud will alert me that something has changed in the design. I'll click this tab. My template has changed. Yes, it has. Update email now. Okay, I'll update it. Okay. Something has rearranged here. Some content has rearranged. It might be that when I opened one of these content blocks that it picked up that some change had been made. All I have to do here is simply delete this one. And this one is fine. And these are fine. This one has been doubled. So what I can do here, let's see. It's going to make me save it first before I can delete it. And now I'll go here. And now I can delete this one. And then I can delete this one. So this will happen, not all the time, but a lot of times randomly. If you have opened or made any changes at all to the content blocks that are in your template, when you go to apply new template changes to your test message will double up on the content blocks. So all you have to do is simply delete the doubled up blocks, and everything is fine. I can save this. I can even exit it, and I can go back again and reopen it, and it should be fine. And it is. Let me go back to edit. Okay, it's showing no more changes need to be made. Okay, everything looks fine. We're ready to go. So I'll click Next, and here we are in the preview panel, and I'm ready to send a test message to Email on Acid. So Email on Acid looks like this. It will ask me first if I want to paste a static HTML email into the system, which I don't. I want to send a test email to Email on Acid. So I'm going to say, no, I don't have a file. And then it will come up with this. And I can select this link, copy, and paste it into Marketing Cloud. Now notice that there is a warning message here. Never forward an email message to this address, because email clients will drastically change your email when forwarded. Yes, they will. Every time you receive an email from Marketing Cloud and you forward it to a friend or a colleague, they will get a mixed up email message on their end because your email client reformats the entire email. And when your email client sends that back along to the next person, things change and fall apart. However, it's very handy, especially when you're working on inlining your styles, and you want to make sure that email messages that you send out can be forwarded more accurately. This is a very handy thing to use. So you can actually paste this test email link here into your email client and forward it to Email on Acid, and you'll get to see what all of your friends get to see when your email gets forwarded to those people. You'll get to see what it looks like in a lot of different email clients. So this is actually a very cool little feature. So don't just do what it tells you here. Go ahead and do what it tells you not to do, and you'll get a much better picture of how resilient your email message is. So I'm going to go back to projects here, and I can go back to Content Builder, and now I'm ready to send to Email on Acid this message. And it says test message successfully sent. And now I'll wait a few minutes and I'll revisit Email on Acid, and we'll see the results. And here we are in Email on Acid. This is my project list, and we see we have a new project here. I'm going to click on that. This is the testing service that I've been using. There's also Litmus has a testing service, and I believe there are others. I highly recommend that you use a testing service of some kind. This shows you at a glance what the different email clients are doing to your email. Let's take a look at the iPhone XR just for a second. Here's a little simulator that shows the iPhone. I can scroll up and down. We can see how well our fonts are rendering, how well our pictures are resizing, and so on. So at a glance, you can see a lot of these things side by side. If we scoot down here, we see that this text has an awkward line break in it next to this photo. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so this is the iPhone SE. This is the smallest iPhone they still make. Okay, it has a very small screen, and what's happening is there's just not enough room on this small screen to fit this picture. That's why when I went over setting image sizes, this is why I mentioned that it's a very good idea not to exceed like 180 or 200 pixels wide, these inline images that are off to the side of your text, because this is what can happen. They can crowd out the screen and create these awkward line breaks. Okay, so let's keep going here. iPhone Outlook, we see that Outlook exhibits an interesting little problem. Outlook is adding an extra wrapper around our page. So this is the Outlook app that you can get on the Apple Store and install on your iPhone. So this is installed on an iPhone 7, and this is what it looks like. And we can see that, well, we can't see it here in this simulator. It's not a full-fledged simulator. But here in the thumbnail view, we can see it. There's an extra wrapper around the page, and it's giving less room for the content and adding more white space around the content. So let's keep going here. iPhone Pro. Down here we see Android. Okay. We see the Pixel phone on Gmail with Android 6, with Android 8. Let's take a look at Android 8 for a second. We see the same thing happening here where there's an extra wrapper going around our message that's causing a little bit of extra white space here we don't really want, but I don't really know how to get around that. Otherwise, it looks okay. I think the font is a little smaller. That's just the way this particular phone wants to render things, so I don't think there's anything we can really do about that. But it's good to see what happens across devices. And if you do have really small text somewhere and it gets too small to read comfortably, well, then we might want to think about bumping it up in size once we see it this way. If you don't test it, you don't know. You think that it's coming in on your email client just fine, but if you don't test it on everyone else's email client, you don't know what they're seeing. So here, again, we see a little different look. This is a Samsung Mail. This is the native app on Samsung phones. Let's see what that looks like. And it's showing a little more padding space around the page than I really wanted, but otherwise it looks okay. And I believe that is the Verdana font and not Roboto. So that's a good thing. Everything else looks okay. The images are scaling okay. This isn't bad. Okay, it's very good to see what happens across email clients this way. Let's go down a little further. Other desktop clients. Okay, so we see Apple Mail on various versions of Mac OS. Okay, that looks good. Here is the Outlook app, the native Outlook app on Mac OS, and it's in dark mode. And we can see what dark mode looks like. And let me see, I think we have to scroll for this one. So we see that the little outline we have around the page is very faint now. Everything else looks black, basically. But some people like it like this. There are things you can try to change this to an all-white page when a user is using dark mode, but I have found these to not work very well at all and are very inconsistent. And so I have not bothered with that with this email template. You can explore those if you want. You can do your own research and find out. Okay, here we are on Windows. Let's look at Windows 10 using Outlook 2016 for a second. And here's Outlook on Windows. And this looks pretty good. We're seeing Verdana, which is good. And the pictures look correct. Everything looks actually pretty darn good here in Outlook 2016 on Windows. So let's keep going. Here is Outlook 2016 120 DPI. Let's take a look at that. So when a user has set their Windows system with zooming, this is what they'll get. You see how everything looks bigger, and everything is scaled correctly, proportionally. The text size looks bigger, the page looks bigger, the photo looks bigger, so this looks okay. We're getting a little border down here underneath our sharing buttons. That's interesting. I don't know quite how to fix that, but let's keep going. And down here, below the desktop, we see, our last desktop item is Thunderbird. This is a very good email client if you're using Windows and you want to see something better than Outlook. We will actually use this when we're testing web fonts because Thunderbird will actually show web fonts on Windows, whereas Outlook does not. So this is a good thing to keep in mind. Let's keep going, keep scrolling, and then we get down to our web clients. So we see AOL on Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. People still use AOL. Gmail. Let's see Gmail on Windows 10 with Chrome. Let's see what that looks like. That looks good. And hey, we're seeing Verdana here and not Roboto, which is very good. I wanted to avoid that. Everything else looks good. If we scroll down again to our web clients, there's Gmail. And then the last one here is Outlook. Actually, it's not the very last one, but let's take a look at that. So if you're using Outlook 365 or webmail, this is what you can expect there, and this all looks very good. So everything is working pretty good here. The last one they show is Yahoo Mail. Let's take a look what that looks like in Windows 10 with Edge. Let's take a look at that. And that looks pretty good. Yahoo Mail looks very, very close to a Gmail by my tests. I haven't really tested AOL Mail very much, so I'm not sure if there are any real differences there. But as you can see, this shows you very well what your email is really going to look like across a range of email clients. So I highly recommend that you use a testing service, whether it's Email on Acid or Litmus or some other service. You really don't know for sure how your email is going to look until you test it. And this will come in very, very handy in the next video when we delve into the world of getting web fonts to work in your HTML email. So that's it for now.